welcome back to my channel. Happy Friday if you're watching this the day it's released, because that's Friday. Whew, I need it to be Friday. Do you guys see the lights flicker? So we're getting a real bad storm here in Colorado. I'm not stoked about it at all. A bad snowstorm. We're supposed to get like over a foot. But I have my tea here and figured it was just a nice day to curl up and chat with you all. So let's just do that instead of thinking about all the snow we're about to get. So I know we've been talking about goals a lot lately, like how to build them out, how to make sure they actually get done, all of this stuff. But I've been seeing questions come back too. It's like, I don't even know if I'm making the right goal. I don't even know what goals to make. I feel like I'm doing it wrong. And I feel like these are such common questions and fears that don't really get discussed. Like, we're all talking about productivity, we're all talking about getting your goals done and making your dreams come true, but there's not a lot of discussion on like what even is a goal and how do I build it out. I feel like that's a huge topic that could honestly be a bunch of videos, and maybe I can get to that. Let me know if you guys want me to make just like a what is a goal series. But today I thought we would talk about a few traps to avoid when building out your goals, when actually setting the goals. So if you've thought of a few things that you want to make your goals, or even if you've already gone through the series with me and you have established some goals, we're like about halfway through the month, like getting close to the end of the month, you can always revise your goals. If something's not working for you, you shouldn't ever feel like you need to get to some sort of end to revise it. You can change it at any point. Like if you decide you want to do something every day, like going for a walk every day, but now we're a few weeks into the year and you're finding that that is actually a really hard goal to keep, so you maybe want to revise it to have it just be like go for a walk a couple times a week, 2-3 times a week. And in a few months or in a few weeks, you can revise it again if that's not working for you. So goals are always a moving target, and I think we'll get into that a little bit, but goals are always a moving target, and you should always feel free to revise or recreate or scratch completely your goals and start over. So if you have gone through and you've made your goals for the year, but you feel like you're trapped a little bit, then definitely keep watching to avoid these traps again when you're remaking the goals. And you might be able to relate to some of these traps already. They might sound familiar to you because they are such common traps when we're goal setting. We all fall into these traps. But anyway, so I was reading this book called Get It Done by Ayelet Fishbach, who is an award-winning psychologist at the University of Chicago Booth School of Business. And she has studied motivation and goal setting and written hundreds of articles on it. She's obviously written books on it. Definitely check this book out. It's so good so far. I haven't even finished it, but it's so good. And she just puts things in a really simple, easy to understand way. So I will link that book down below if you're interested in checking it out. But she talks about these 3 traps that she's seen throughout all of her studies and researching people and researching goals and how we achieve them, when we achieve them, all of these different things. And these are the 3 most common traps that she has found people fall into when they're setting their goals. So the first trap that she mentions people fall into is that you're framing your goal as a means to another goal instead of the end goal itself. I know that was a lot of goals in one sentence, but basically if you think about your goal and realize that it's just a means to an end. For example, you want to lose weight, but really the reason you want to lose weight is you want to have more confidence or be able to run 10 miles, or you need to get your health in check. That is a good example of this goal. You think you need to lose weight to achieve the broader goal, but really your weight has nothing to do with getting more confidence, running a marathon, doing anything you want. So you want to avoid that trap of convincing yourself that your end goal is one thing when really it might not have anything to do with that one goal. I know we've talked a little bit about the 5 whys exercise, and this is such a good exercise. If you haven't seen it, I talk about it in a few other videos. This is such a good exercise to really get to that root goal. So if you're having a hard time and you aren't sure whether or not your goal is just a means to an end goal or the end goal, then do that 5 whys exercise where you just ask yourself why you want that goal and do it 5 more times. And like I said in other videos, usually that end goal is very different from your original goal. Like if you want to get a new job, but actually your end goal is to have a better work-life balance, then there's an easier path directly to a work-life balance. And obviously, depending on your job and that, there can be a lot of factors that go into play there. But, your ultimate end game is a better work-life balance. So if that is your goal and not just getting a new job, then you can start to think really creatively about how you can bring that into your life right now, how you can build out a better work-life balance. Maybe turning your phone off at the end of the day, or, silencing work emails or something. You end up thinking in more creative ways when you realize what your end goal is versus just adding more to your plate and finding another job. Because that is basically a full-time job itself, as people say. So if you're trying to find another job to get a better work-life balance, but you could maybe be getting a better work-life balance now anyway, if you realize that that was your end game, it just cuts the goal short. You realize what's actually important to you, and you figure out creative ways to get there faster. And you can build out all of the habits that will get you towards your goal and direct them towards your end game goal rather than this means to an end goal. So the second trap she talks about in the book is setting a goal that's too specific or concrete instead of an abstract goal. And this one, I feel like I have a really hard time wrapping my mind around because we hear a lot of conflicting things, right? Like if you want to save for a house or for a car, to set a number goal and save to that number. And that makes sense because it is something like tangible. You can see it. You know how much you're putting into that savings account every month. You can do the math. You know when you're going to reach that goal. It makes it really clear and kind of streamlines the efficiency to get to that goal because you know clearly when you've reached it. But the problem with setting very specific or concrete goals is that if we fail to achieve the very specific goal, like when you want to save $100, if you save $95, we as humans are programmed to feel like failures, even though it's only $5. And she talks about this in the book. Even though it's only $5, because we didn't reach the target, this very specific target in a very specific amount of time, we feel like a failure. But on the flip side, if you save $105, so you actually save $5 over rather than being under, the reward function in our brain doesn't light up the same way. It's the same amount of money, but when we are under by $5, we feel like an ultimate failure. And when we're over by $5, we're like, meh, we did it. And it doesn't make a huge impact on whether we've achieved the goal. And actually, she says that if you hit just $100 exactly, if that's your goal, you feel better than if you were to save up $105. That extra $5 doesn't really mean anything. And what that tells scientists is that when we make a very concrete and specific goal, we need to hit exactly that goal. We need to land right on target, because if we're off a little bit in either direction, then we lose all sense of purpose with that goal. So how that translates to us in our day-to-day goal building is that you just want to make a goal that is abstract, that is a moving target, like I was talking about earlier, where you can't really catch up to it. Because once you hit it, then you're just going to stop. And you're going to stop trying and maybe not get to that next level that you could if you didn't make such a specific goal. If your goal wasn't to save $100, but was just to save up to buy a car in the next 6 months, then maybe you'd save up $200 even faster. And so it ends up becoming limiting in our goal setting when we do set very specific goals, because best case scenario, you achieve the goal, you hit the goal, but then you're just done. And there's nowhere to go up, there's no beyond goal, you're just done and you can move on with your life and that's it, you did it. There's nowhere else to go. And worst case scenario, even if you hit just under your target, you feel like a failure. So you want to avoid that very common trap and just keep your targets moving, keep them broad. And then the final trap that she talks about in the book is setting a goal in terms of something you wish to avoid instead of something you wish to approach. And I feel like this is honestly the most common trap that we all fall into. I know the minute she said it, it like super hit me, and I thought of all of the goals that I've set in the past and even some that I have currently that are all avoidant goals. So an avoidant goal is like, I don't want to eat any more sugar. I'm going to cut out sugar. And that might be a great goal for you. Maybe you have to cut out sugar. But when you're setting the goal, it puts this giant target on sugar, and it becomes this thing that you're forbidden to have and you're not allowed to eat it, and it only makes us want it more, right? Like when you're told that you can't do something, we all have that little bit of rebellion in us, and it makes us want it more. And you're putting all of your attention onto this thing because you're trying to avoid it. But when you avoid something, you end up just thinking about it. Like, no, I don't want to eat sugar. I don't want a donut right now. Oh, I wish I could have a donut, but I'm not eating sugar, so I don't want a donut. And this cycle ends up happening where you're just trying to convince yourself over and over again that you don't want this thing. Like if you don't want to watch TV during the day, you're probably going to find yourself just like glancing over at the TV, wondering what it would be like. And you're going to find that your eyes go over there a lot more. And so that's an avoidant goal. It's building your goal off of something you don't want to do anymore, or don't want to have anymore, or don't want to be anymore. And it's such a common goal to have, to not do this, to not eat that, to not go there, all of these things, like we hear them all the time. And these goals are just perpetuated in society because it's so much easier to say what's wrong with us and what we shouldn't be doing and pointing out all of our flaws than it is to celebrate the good things that we are doing and the things that we want to be doing more of, and to pour all of our energy into those things rather than focus on our flaws and on the things that we want to change about ourselves. It's so common. I'm sure you can think right now of all of the goals that you've thought yourself that are avoidant goals. Like I said, this trap hit me so hard because I relate to it in such a deep way, but it was truly eye-opening. So if you want to cut out sugar and you've gone through the 5 whys and you know what your true why is, and you realize that it's because you actually want to be focusing on whole foods, then instead of thinking it as I'm cutting out sugar, instead think of it as I want to introduce more whole foods into my diet. And buy that stuff, buy the whole foods, surround yourself with whole foods if you're used to surrounding yourself with sugary snacks. Put the emphasis on what you are adding into your life rather than on what's being removed from your life, because then the temptation eases by like a million. And I know that sounds easier said than done, but it is scientifically proven. If we focus on what we're bringing into our life and what we're adding to our diet rather than what we need to remove, it takes the appeal off of what we're trying to avoid and just helps you shift your focus. And what you focus on expands. I know I've said that before in videos too, but it's my favorite phrase. What you focus on expands. So if you're focusing on what you're adding to your plate and how inventive you can be with all of these whole foods now and the ways that you can make delicious foods and not think about all of the sugar that you're missing, that's going to completely change your outcome. And same if we go back to, that goal of getting a new job because you want work-life balance, instead of focusing on how much you hate your job right now and just desperately want to get out, shifting your focus to why you want a better work-life balance and encouraging that right now. And you can still job hunt, but the focus isn't on desperately getting out of this job. The focus is on what you're living for and why you want to get out of that job and all of the things in your life that you want that balance for. This trap is all about shifting your focus from what you want to remove from your life to what you are adding, because we're never just removing things from our life, right? Everything has the pros and cons. Everything has some sort of balance to it. So if you do want to avoid something, it's because you want something else there instead. So just focus on that. Focus on what you're gaining, what you're benefiting. And I know I talked about this, I think, in last week's video. How are you benefiting from achieving this goal? Think about that. Focus on that, and don't focus on what you're letting go of, because then you're only going to want it more. And the reason we want to avoid all of these traps is because they do eventually hinder us from achieving these goals. So although it might be easier to build out your goal based on these 3 traps, because like I said, they're just so common. I'm sure you know or have made goals based off of any of these or all of these. because I think we've all done that, but it ultimately hinders us in the long run. And if you read more into this book, she talks more about the detrimental ways and the impact that these goals have on you. But I don't want to make this video an hour long, so I'm just going to probably cut it off here. But let me know if any of these traps resonated with you, if you feel like you've fallen into them. Again, we've all been there. I've certainly been there, so don't feel bad at all. Just remember that you can revise and edit your goals whenever you need to, whenever you feel like you should. These are not chores. They are not tied to us in any sort of way. They're not written in stone. You can revise and edit as you need to, and you should. Our goals should always be a moving target, and we should always be striving for more. So don't feel any sort of pressure. Don't feel like a failure if you need to already revise your goals. It's totally, totally normal. So I hope this video helped you guys out today and helped ease some of those stressors and worries about building out your goals. We're all learning here, so don't feel any pressure to get it right the first time or the 10th time or the 100th time, because we're always learning more and we're always growing more, and we always want different things. As you grow up, you want different things and your goals change. That's totally normal. So be kind to yourself, take time for yourself. I'm so glad you all are here. I appreciate you all so, so much. You have no idea. If you have any other questions or video ideas, please drop them below. And I'll see you all next Friday.